Welcome in number 9. Today, with Francois Liechtenstein, we are analyzing a song by Orbit Culture called Flight of the Fireflies. Okay, Franz, why did you pick that song?
Why did I pick the song? Well, I picked the song because the song I picked prior to this, the two songs I picked prior to this, one was apparently too silly for this podcast, and the other one was too serious for this podcast. So I try to find something in between. This one, more on the serious side than silly, but not too serious.
I promise we will do rowing with one hand some other time. That's an excellent song. Please, guys, check it out.
I like the song because it seems sincere somehow. Like the lyrics seem to be a guy sincerely working on something. I like that. And it's heavy and melodic. What did you think about the song?
Well, it kind of shut down all the thought process that was going on in my head. So it feels like feelings being screamed into your ears, and for once it's nice. It's like somebody screamed feelings that I feel as well. So good job, Nicholas Carlson, on making that song. Shout out, by the way, dude. Thanks.
Yeah, I forgot which one it was. It was a mental documentary of some kind. I think it was the Zen of Screaming, and they were interviewing vocalists about screaming techniques. And I think at the Gates vocalist said there are a lot of young artists who want to learn how to do metal screaming and stuff, and they ask him for advice. And the first thing he said, he always asked them, like, do you actually have something real to scream about? If not, don't. Just get out of here. Don't waste people's time by screaming about stupid things.
I would totally go to such therapy one day, but I'm afraid there will be a lot of broken windows. Yeah. Okay, let's get to it.
Game destruction, the flight of fireflies, the birth of lost control, a cry in the night. Inside the dungeon, inside the waves of my head, I tried to grasp it, chasing what's in myself. So I project here a poet who's writing about something that happens in himself. And it's something that happens when he feels like he loses things, something gets destroyed, or he loses control. And there's a part of himself that he's describing as a dungeon. So there's a dark part of himself that he's entering in waves. And part of that experience he describes as a flight of fireflies. And I don't know if that's like maybe tingling sensations, or if the fireflies have some specific symbolic meaning for the author. It doesn't particularly have symbolic meaning for me, so I'm not sure. What do you project on this?
I think there is something that breaks him down, and fireflies is the thing that represents hope. So while there is all those pressure thingies coming onto him and like kind of breaking him from the inside, he tries to grasp for the fireflies from the bottom of the hell that he found himself in, the dungeon.
The dungeon. So maybe the dungeon's really dark,
and
the fireflies represent small points of light.
Yeah.
That can guide him, hopefully. But fireflies aren't a very good source of light. So if fireflies are all you have, then the dungeon would be poorly lit, unless there are very many fireflies, but I don't think so. It's a dark place, scantily lit, but there are little sources of light, little hints, little clues of light.
Yeah, and I tried to grasp it, chasing, and so he's like catching them in himself,
catching little sources of light.
Yeah, maybe those are positive memories, or like things to look forward to in the future, perhaps.
Yeah, or maybe maybe better ways of behaving,
Mm.
better things to say, better ideas to execute, and what the little ideas that are good, that forces of light, but they're difficult, like small, faint, and
Yeah.
fluttering all over the place, and difficult to grasp.
Mm.
So yeah, that I like that in destruction, when things are being destroyed, and when he feels like he's losing control, he enters a kind of dungeon in his inner world that washes over him like waves. But then, even in that state, there are these little glimmers of hope, or glimmers of a better future, or a better way to do things, or better ideas to execute in the world. That's really abstract projection.
Yeah, and I hope it's spot on. Now it happens, and now I'm myself. It's coming down to the last second. So I guess he caught the fireflies within himself and came down.
So yeah, trying to think, maybe the fireflies is something like his potential, his better potential self. He's chasing to be that better potential. Like when he grasps a little firefly, it happens, and then he can be his realized self, or something like that. Now it happens, and now I'm myself. And it's coming down to the last second, makes me think like this all happens really quickly, and there isn't a lot of spare time. So there's a sense of urgency.
What do you do to take control when there is situation of drowning, basically? Like when you feel like there is no air and you're trying to reach out for help, but there is nobody. And how can you find the strength within yourself? Is there any technique that you know to calm down other than catch fireflies in your head?
Well, listening to kick-ass songs is something I really like doing.
Mm-hmm. Let's say there is this situation in public where you're like on a bus full of people, and then there is panic attack happening, and what's going on? How do you calm down? Have ever?
Right, so I've never had panic attacks, so I've never used any of the techniques. I know there are techniques that therapists use to teach people. Maybe not the most relevant thing to go into right now. But
Yeah.
I don't think the song is about panic particularly. I think it's more about rage.
Oh. Okay, let me paraphrase the question. What do you do in jiu-jitsu practice? You practice jiu-jitsu. When there is, let's say, more challenging opponent that you have, and you know you might lose at that moment, and if there is any fear that creeps in to crush you before the actual fight, how do you suppress that? Or there is no practice in jiu-jitsu?
So to calm down, breathing actually does help, like focusing on the breath for a second. And in jiu-jitsu, there are specific techniques to stay safe. So it's take a breath and then do a situational assessment, and then do the things I was taught to stay safe. And luckily, there are fairly simple things one can do to make it really annoying for the other person to get a submission. And I think in many situations where people experience intense negative emotions like intense fear or intense anger, the flight or fight response, if they have the mental space to make a situational assessment, there's often a fairly simple path to safety. But seeing it can be difficult if the mind is not working like it usually does when you're really upset. So I think part of the trick is catching it early. Not leaving it to the very last second. There's usually a bit of a build-up. So if you notice the build-up starting early, it's easier. The later you leave it, the more difficult it becomes, because as the emotions become more overwhelming, the self-control centers of the brain become less and less effective. It's like, so the longer you wait to start regulating yourself by just taking a breath and taking a situational assessment and talking yourself through what you need to do to make it safe, or to make things okay enough to be tolerable, at least, the more difficult it gets.
Situational assessment. That one is relatable. That one I had practiced since childhood. You basically see what's around you. Where do you have the ways out? Let's say in case of a fire or something, you know where to get out, how. You have practiced all the steps, and you know how to come down. Breath, I learned later on, but for me, situational assessment doesn't always mean the ways to escape, although it started this way, but later on it got in a peripheral view the ways to protect. What can I do? Where are the weak points of the opponent? How to fight back? So assessment on escape, assessment of fighting back, and then assessment on how to return the into normal state, let's say, to normality. Like making up a plan on a spot, that kind of gets me out of the dungeon when I make the plan for the future, like moving forward before I have a chance even to move forward somehow. Yeah, those are my fireflies, basically.
Yeah, and the less you have control to do anything, the more difficult it can be to come up with a plan that seems promising enough so that it would calm you down. That's why I like in this first stanza when he says the birth of lost control. Like if the situation is really out of control, like no matter what plan you make, it's completely, you are now surrendered to your fate. At that point, it becomes more difficult to rely on planning, because there sometimes are no plans available. I guess at that point, there's a move one can make is to sort of accept what happens. I don't know how to teach acceptance, but at least in jiu-jitsu, the thing that many people don't want to happen is to lose the sparring match, even though it's a friendly match and it's really a training session, not a competition. Still, people's egos get involved and they don't want to lose to anyone. And acceptance in that context just means like making peace with it. So what if I lose? What of it? Like it's fine. I'm okay by losing happening. Like that, it's not the end of the world. Like I will be okay even if I lose. And so play the game knowing that worst comes to worst, I do my tap and admit defeat, and then that's it. Now, admitting defeat in a friendly sparring match is a fairly easy thing to accept. There are like much worse things that could be happening when you've lost control that would be more difficult to accept. I think something that happens or that helps with acceptance is proper grieving. But that's also really difficult right in the moment when things are happening. Often, like if you survive the moment, grieving can take a while after the moment. But maybe that cycle can be made shorter if you really have lost control and there are no plans that'll save you, then maybe really quickly grieving and just making peace with the bad thing that's happening is the way to go.
Is it like giving up though?
Yeah.
Letting go? You can read the next one.
I can read the next. The bridge is not safe, but it helps me to escape, and even my demon know things and join me. Now, this makes me think that maybe the thing he's grasping after isn't only the fireflies, if the fireflies are symbolizing like a light or goodness in him. Something that that I'm thinking is that in this dungeon, the dungeon is in himself. So like thinking of a space he goes to is maybe a little misleading. There's a space he becomes. He becomes a darker version of himself. And part of what I see happening in the song is the poet sort of writing about the process of integrating that demon of his, the demon he becomes when he loses control, sort of reining the demon in, rather than the demon taking over. So yeah, that line, and even my demon know things and join me. It seems like at that point he's like allying the demon, so it still feels like an external force, but not an external force that is opposed to him. Just aligning the objectives of the demon and himself.
Well, the way it's written, and even my demon know things and join me. It feels like invitation, though, like he is addressing it somehow. Something disjointed about it, but he wants to accept it and invite it in because, yeah, he wants it inside somehow.
Yeah, and the bridge seems to be like a tipping point. So like when things get rough and he loses control, there's a tipping point of a change that happens in him. Yeah. And like if at that tipping point, like when the change happens, bad things have happened in the past, like he's maybe done regrettable things that's hurt himself. So like in the short term, it seemed like the right thing and it wasn't the right thing in the long run. So it's not safe, but then what happens after the tipping point is a change in him that happens that helps him escape these kinds of situations where he's out of control. So that the way I read the know things and join me isn't as an imperative, like Mr. Demon, I want you to know things and I want you to join me. I read it as declarative that audience, this meet my demon knows things and he's joining me.
I think the bridge is not safe. This means he uses the same way to escape all the time, even though it failed him in the past. But it's the only thing, like he has the only pre-learned steps of getting out of the pit hole that he found himself in. Sometimes it doesn't work, but that's the only one he has somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, the bridge. One bridge, not several bridges. Many fireflies, though. So I guess the fireflies are supposed to light the way to the bridge.
Perhaps those are positive kind of positive ideas that he has. I think even thoughts that keep him going, look for the future favorably. And who are you to me? Life you took away, and still the temptation, no thanks, and join me. He's addressing the demon, right? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. You could also be addressing someone else, but he's saying he's trying to grasp it and chasing what's in himself. So like earlier, it seems like he's directed at himself, or like introspecting. And yeah, as you said, the demon seems disjointed. It seems like a separate entity.
Yeah.
Asking for the demon, who are you? To me, life you took away. And that life you took away is maybe things that happened in the past where the demon took control, and things happened that sort of closed doors, made maybe
Burn some
bridges
bridges.
and ended some relationships,
Mhm.
canceled some opportunities for the person. And so there were lives that he might have lived, weren't it for the demon, and that he now can't. Or he may be a murderer. If we want to take him literally. But yeah, I don't think he means it literally. I think it's like a potential life that, like the potential that was destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. It's the thing that I project, right? That like there was something good going on, and then demon took over and like destroyed that, and now you're like, okay, now since you took that thing away, give me something else instead. There is still this temptation to achieve stuff, so you know how to do it. Join me and work for me, demon. Like, yeah. Interesting. I have a lot of
Yeah,
projections here, actually.
that's okay. I need to tell stories. Stories about ruined friendships and ruined careers and ruined all kinds of things.
Yeah, and then demon, well, now work for me. Now go and get the things or replacement for the things you took. Right?
Actually, but the order he says it in is like, even my demon know things and join me. And by the way, who the hell are you? You really hurt me last time. What the hell, man? What was that all about?
Yeah,
Explain
he
yourself.
does address the demon.
Yeah, since and he says, and still the temptation know things and join me. So like even though the bridge isn't safe and the demon is problematic and has taken away life, there's something tempting about it, something alluring and attractive about it, has a pull to it, and he wants that attraction and the pull to well, the attraction and the pull he's claiming also knows things, also has a kind of wisdom to it, and
Maybe it feels good. Just like physically, it feels good when he releases, when he's taken over by the demon, it gives him pleasure somehow. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so cool. Like screaming at your boss, I hate you. It feels so good.
oddly
Like that's the
specific.
seduction. It's very inviting.
Certified badass. Bomb everything and walk away without looking at the explosion.
Yeah. Yeah, Horatio style.
By seduction, the toxic death arrives. The search for fireflies through mist in the night. Inside the temple, inside the shimmering light, I try to follow the lights in the sky. So it links up with the previous stanza when he's talking about the temptation and the seduction. And he says the demon that comes in a tempting and seductive way. And even though it's tempting and seductive, it's toxic. It brings death, like it kills things, it destroys things. And so he's not 100% on board with it. And there's this, like, he wants to join and be aligned with it, but this thing is itself toxic. So it's complicated to join up with it, team up with it. It knows things and it helps him escape and whatever, but it's not safe. And so he says the search for fireflies through mist in the night. So the mist in the night, I'm thinking, relates to the sort of dark dungeon place he goes to when this happens. So things get cloudy and his mind becomes cloudy and it becomes difficult to see. and he's searching for the fireflies, which I think when we said earlier, that's it's the light, the better way. Seems to be confirmed by the stanza, at least. He says, inside the temple and inside the shimmering light, I tried to follow the lights in the sky. So even though he's inviting the demon to join him, he wants to I guess, find a good path. So he's in this bad situation where he's lost control, and when there's destruction, things maybe he loves are being destroyed, and he goes into this dark place where it's difficult to see and everything. But even there, he wants the darkness that like envelops him to assist him in finding the light, or finding a good way. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, it's like he allows the demon to take over, and his demon, I don't have the power to find the light. I feel powerless, let's say, and then demon takes over, and here is your path, here's the way to the light. It's like this giving up sort of thing somehow. He tries to follow the lights in the sky, and that's like by seduction toxic death arrives. So his real self kind of goes underground, and then the demon receives an order. While you are on autopilot, go find the fireflies that will get you out of this mess you found yourself in somehow. I think it's like getting drunk and doing your taxes sort of thing.
I don't think the demon in this case is something outside of him.
Oh.
I don't think he's inviting something outside in. He's chasing something that is in himself. That's in the first thing. And then also later he talks about it living inside of him. To break the suffering, it's tainted life it steals. In prison, in life cell, you'll learn the way of the thorn. I do the next two. In trial for living, it keeps us all in the cloud. It's coming down to the last second.
Yeah, well.
Sure.
What do you project here?
I mean, so yeah, it is like to break the suffering. Seems like it relates to it's trying to escape something, and something escape is destructive and out of control, and it causes him suffering. And there are like a couple of definitions of suffering. One suffering definition is a kind of loss of control, not just a painful thing. So other definitions too, but I think that relates to that. And I think he's still talking about his demon when he says it's tainted life it steals. So he's inviting the demon and the temptation in, and that demon and the temptation is tainted. It's toxic. It steals life. He asked it like, "Who are you even to me? You've taken away life from me." But then he's also saying, like, in those situations where there's destruction and he's out of control in prison, and when life puts you in a cell, when it binds you in painful ways, you'll learn the way of the thorn. So you'll learn to become that part of nature that is thorny and spiky and clawy, and fangy and violent. So you'll learn that part of life to become that part of life that is violent.
Yeah. He does good things, but he also ruins some stuff around him. It steals something from him, the goodness. In prison, in life's cell, you will learn the way of the thorn somehow. It brings in with him also suffering. That's what I project here. In trial for living, it keeps us all in the cloud. It's coming down to the last second.
So I'm not sure it keeps us all in the cloud if he's now talking about the kind of situation where there's destruction and a loss of control, or whether he's talking about the demon. I think he's talking about the situation. I think he's relating that kind of situation as like endemic to life. Like if you're alive, you will somehow stand trial for living. It's a big claim. I'm not sure if I'm reading it right, or if that's just the way he feels, like it's completely unfair, like he has a right to live and yet he's in trial, and it's and he's sharing this feeling now with the rest of humanity. It keeps all of us in the cloud, not just him. And then it repeats, it's coming down to the last second. Maybe he's kind of losing his sanity at this point.
Mm.
Like it's the like in the last second, like crazy thoughts about being unfairly stood in trial and how everybody's in the same boat. Stuff that's a little disconnected from reality comes up. I don't know. I'm reaching here. What do you project?
I think keeping us all in the cloud. Cloud associates with memory, like memory from your computer. It's just like put all your memories into the cloud. So trial for living, you will have to reach out to your memories, to who you were somehow. It's coming down to the last second. At the last second, that thing will pull you out. So I do believe that fireflies actually represents memories, like positive memories that he is reaching out to, like his historical grounding, in a sense.
So the next one is, am I alive? The taste of salt. Is this what you are? Anger. It pours down on me like hailstorms. So yeah, at least musically, it feels to me like these last two stanzas is him like representing that feeling he gets when he's like when he's on the bridge when the demon starts taking over. He starts like telling himself about how unfair things is, like he's in trial for living, how dare they, and he's like he loses a sense of himself as being alive, and it's like obvious, like maybe memories start fading, like the fireflies may even be fading, like forget about his previous life or whatever, like the life he'd lived, and he gets a taste of salt in his mouth. Like he could taste the. I would have thought this would be a taste of iron. Maybe stop tasting the blood.
Oh, taste of salt is tears.
Could be.
Like the question is, am I alive? And then it's again hope. So the hope breaks you down in tears somehow. Is this what you are? Anger? And I don't know if people cry from anger. I don't think, like, actually taste of blood would correspond with anger to me. It pours down on me like hailstorms. Yes. I think it's hailstorms that come again and like there is little break, then again a hailstorm and again a hailstorm. Like it comes back all the time somehow.
I just thought a hailstorm is like a very intense rainstorm, like very heavy and violent.
Yeah.
So it's not like a regular rainstorm that soaks you. It like not only soaks you, it also pummels you with stones.
Yeah. And it's loud and it can kill you as well with the thunder, lightning.
I was thinking salty is an expression for someone who's angry. Being salty, like if someone is like resentful about something, there's something salty. They sort of sarcastically insult things and stuff, like, sorry, I'm salty about this.
Okay. Taste of salt. Yeah. Am I alive? Is this now? Is this the taste of salt? Am I angry? He's trying to assess the situation, actually. You remember the assessment part? So when you're in the state where you cannot even assess the situation properly, that's when you know you're fucked. And then you're like, I'm giving up to the demon. Yeah, what do you do in that situation, actually?
Like if it's a real question
Mhm.
whether you are alive, like when your mind is that sort of choked up that you like if someone asks you, "Are you alive right now?" and you're like, am I alive?" Like if that's then you are far gone. Like that's you're very upset at that point. Some or very emotional. But he seems to be trying to get a grip on the situation, and I think he's addressing the demon, and now he's giving the demon just another name. Like, oh, it's like this experience is this what people call anger?
Yeah, that's what I think. Like his demon is the thing that expresses the anger.
I have a Swedish friend, and I don't know how accurate this is, but he reports about Swedish culture that it's very taboo for people to openly express anger.
Oh.
Yeah, so being assertive or being confrontational or being disagreeable is really frowned upon. And so agreeableness is valued highly, and assertiveness and standing your ground is kind of cast in the shadow. So it makes sense to me that a Swedish guy would be struggling with this sort of thing and working through it.
Like expressing the actual emotion, right? That what's going on.
In a way that's healthy rather than just toxic and destructive.
Jesus. Well, I'll see you again. The fallen man. When we are alone, you can't disappear, the fallen man, since you live inside of me. Yeah, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, so I think he is still talking to this demon of anger. Rage takes him over. And he just knows, like the hailstorms that you mentioned, it'll come back again. Like it's not something that it's not a once off. They'll definitely come again. They'll meet again. And he says when we are alone, like so apparently this is something he prefers to work through in private, which with a bit of background, but the Swedish friend said would make sense in his social context to rather not work that thing out in public. Just different from some other cultures where having a rage fit and screaming and yelling is more acceptable. But yeah, he's sort of saying this part where he says, like, since you live inside of me, makes it think it's not something like about drugs or whatever. It's I think it's his like his rage system. Like it's part of like, being a human. People get angry about stuff, and it does have this this feeling to it that it takes over. Like it is something different from us that can take over and do things that we regret afterwards, like when it goes away again. So yeah, so he's addressing it. He's like putting distance between him and angry him, but he's also trying to grasp angry him. Like way back earlier in the beginning of the song, he says, "Now it happens, and now I'm myself." So he's kind of acknowledging this. That angry him is also him, is himself. Himself angry is himself. And I think anger, if one learns to express it healthily, is the thing that motivates us to sort of stand our ground and protect our boundaries and take care of ourselves when people encroach on our rights and stuff. So there's an element of self-assertion to anger, and I think anger serves a self-assertion. Like, no, this is not okay. I am not okay when you do this. You will have to stop, and if you don't, I will make you stop out of anger. And when that's under control, like I think that's part of what martial arts tries to train people. Like when it's under control, it's like the minimum amount of force required to have your legitimate needs met. gets used in a way that does the least possible damage to anyone else. And oftentimes that basically means no damage to anyone else. So like oftentimes we can be assertive without directly harming other people, although it may mean that other people don't get what they want and they lose a bit of control over us. So we keep control of ourselves, and we keep control over what's rightfully ours, and we stop people trying to encroach and take that control away from us and destroying us and destroying what's rightfully ours and what's dear to us. That was a lot of projection. Maybe, well, was that more theory? I guess that was more theory.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I do believe that I might be projecting as well a lot. I would like Nicholas to come here and explain a little bit. We do have some questions. Yeah, I would like you to clarify parts in here, or even object to the wrong projections that I had, please.
Last one. I really like this last part because it makes me think of me and my family. Specific people in my family that I love a lot. It says, I don't belong here. The doors are shut and I see hell. And it's like,
Did you say family?
yeah. People get, as I have family members who they have one bridge. It's the way they get out, and it's to rage quit. It's just to be like, I am done. Goodbye. And then quit and leave and never come back and burn the bridge and salt the earth behind them.
And then the next morning, what? Nothing happened. It's on you if you're angry.
What do you project?
On those, I don't belong here. The doors are shut and I see hell. Well, I project the situation where the person wants to change his life, basically. Like I don't like this shitty thing. I want to change it. That's not who I am. I'm not the person who asks the demon for help. I'm not the person who gave in to anger, even though it maybe advanced my career to shout at the boss, let's say, right? I'm not that person. I don't belong it. I don't like it. It feels bad to me. So if I continue like that, I will end up in hell. That's my projection.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a different take on the word here. Like when here is an inner location versus an outer location.
The situational assessment, you were spot on, actually. The situational assessment, that's exactly what the song is about. The guy assessed the situation, and this is what he came up with. That's not the situation I like to be in. I'm gone.
Yeah, but the projection you had just a second ago, when you said like this is not who he is, he's not the person who does ask the demon for help and whatever.
Yeah,
it's a little different from what I had in mind. Like, so I when I listen to the song, the feeling I get is that the demon progressively takes over. Like right at the end, it's the demon speaking. And the demon is doing like an external situational assessment and be like, yeah, this destruction and loss of control of it, screw this. This is not our vibe. We're gonna fight our way out of here. And this is war, this is hell. Like, and start pummeling his way out. But that's quite different from how you're reading it, where the person has not given in completely to the demon. There's still the author that's separate from the demon making an assessment and being like, yeah, maybe the demon has taken over to too great a degree, and he's still chasing the fireflies out of that demonic dungeon space. So maybe it's the dungeon inside where he doesn't belong rather than the destruction outside where he doesn't belong. I was reading it as the destruction outside where he doesn't belong.
Thank you for bringing the song, and thank you for having free time. It was a joy, as always. People, please check out the meetup group that Francois is participating. I will provide the link below. And see you in the next line by line.
But I'm looking at the credits of the video, and it was written by Nicholas Carlson, and lyrics were by Nicholas Carlson, and it was produced by Nicholas Carlson, and mixed and mastered by Nicholas Carlson, and artwork by here it goes, Paulo. What? Rule Martin. I really said Nicholas Carlson. I was like getting into a group.
Yeah, he changed his name. It's his alter ego. It's him, but on. Okay.